Well, good morning again. This is the day where we've been receiving forecasts of the worst of weather for this week, and that forecast is still staying with those predictions. We are expecting to see extreme fire danger rating conditions right across Greater Sydney and the Hunter, which includes most of our most active and significant firefighting operations already underway. Overnight, we've received drizzle, showers and a bit of rainfall right across a very large area of New South Wales, and indeed coming into the back end of some of the fireground areas. Unfortunately, right across the firegrounds, it would appear at this stage to be lucky to be getting up to 5 millimetres of rain in part. Most areas are probably less than 2 millimetres is what we're recording. Already, and indeed from about 6:30 this morning, we are starting to see the northwesterly winds strengthen, and observations up in the back end of the Blue Mountains are showing wind strengths already tipping up to 40 to 70 kilometres an hour, and the indications are that the inversion or the cloud that is still hanging around is expected to dissipate over the coming hours, and the onset of the hotter, drier conditions are starting to will start to mix down and come across the fireground areas, the Greater Sydney area and the Hunter area. What has also accompanied this thunderstorm activity overnight was some very volatile and unstable weather dynamics to the point that we withdrew firefighters and fire appliances off a lot of the fire trails, largely as a result of safety concerns, but also what we didn't want with some of the drizzle was to have fire trucks starting to get bogged or starting to slide off slippery, dirty trails, which history would show too often occurs under those sorts of conditions. What we've also seen, which is challenging as a result of the thunderstorm activity, is some fairly extensive lightning activity. We've seen lightning right across central areas of New South Wales, the back end of the ranges, and right across and adjacent to the current fireground areas of the Blue Mountains, Hawkesbury, and indeed down through Wingecarribee. The heaviest of rainfall throughout the Blue Mountains complex appears to have been around the Springwood Winmalee fireground area, and second to that would have been in Bilpin. We've also had reports of the rainfall being up to that 5 mils or so down around the Wingecarribee fireground. Whilst that is some welcome relief in terms of moderating the current fire behaviour, it has compromised considerably the ability to continue with the backburning operations that were planned throughout the evening. It was already challenging enough trying to do backburning operations in fuels that were fairly young, only a few years old, because they were only burnt in recent years. You add on to that elevated humidities or indeed some shower activity, and we had some real issues. That's certainly what's happened overnight. The benefit to the moisture is, of course, that it's slowed down some of the fire behaviour, but it won't take very long today before we see that fire behaviour stir up and be subject to the onset of these hotter, drier conditions. Every hour we get today where fires don't flare up, where spot fires don't breach the containment lines, or the main fire front crosses over the containment lines, will be a positive thing, because that means there's every potential that the fires won't run as far as they possibly could. It is too early to call just where these fires will break out, when these fires will break out, and therefore which communities will start being impacted first and later on throughout the afternoon. We've seen some wonderful response again last night right across community meetings. Up in the Blue Mountains, I'm told there was more than 4,000 people attending one of the community meetings near Katoomba, for example. People were flowing outside the community hall, sharing information, updating information, and it's wonderful to see that community interest, that community spirit. It makes such a difference in dealing with this firefighting campaign. And once again, can I just say to all our firefighters, the men and women out there, and particularly the incident controllers and the broader emergency management teams, I'm acutely aware of all the challenges, all the competing interests and demands that have been weighed up over recent days, the strategies and the techniques that have been deployed, all with a view to avert as much damage and as much destruction as is likely to unfold on a day like today.